Steve and Chris, partners in Irongate. In their business, or in your business, you help analyze private equity investments for high net worth individuals. Most of the private equity investments you analyze are what's called Reg D investments. Can you help us better understand what a Reg D investment is?
Sure. The Securities Act of 1933 is the principal governing rules and regs for the sale of securities, both public and private. It was formed out of the Great Depression and all the collapse of the markets and the economy. Regulation D of that Securities Act is basically an exemption which allows a company to offer equity or debt securities without actually going through the process of being registered. There are a couple components of Reg D that allow a security to not be publicly registered, and one of them is that you don't sell it to the public. The other one is that generally it is offered only to accredited investors. And then the other part of it that I think makes it attractive for people like us is that, like a prospectus for a publicly traded security, a private placement memorandum is generated, which provides folks like us, who are fiduciaries for our clients, most of the information that we would need to analyze this type of investment.
The Congress has proposed a bill that will cut the capital gains tax by 50% for investors that will invest in a qualified small business. Number one, when will this bill be effective if it passes? And number two, what is a qualified small business?
Well, what he's talking about is essentially a tool for your toolbox. I'll take a step back for a moment and say what Ed Graham was enlightening us all on is, in my opinion, all the information you need to know to be either an angel investor or a business owner looking for an angel investor. So those of you that don't know Ed, you need to get to know him. He's an intelligent man. I've always been impressed by him. Knowing him the way we have over the last few years, I know that it was driving him crazy sitting behind a table rather than standing up and moving around. But what Dallas is referring to is a section of the code, section 1202. And it was originally, it's not new actually, originally in 1993, there was legislation in the code that allowed for an angel investor to take a 50% capital gains tax cut when their investment was liquidated or cashed out. That was back when the the capital gains rate was 28%. It was attractive then. 14% versus 28 is a big difference in capital gains. They locked in the 28% though. And so now we are at a 15% capital gains rate where there's not a lot of incentive to jump through the 1202 hoops to get a 1% better capital gains tax advantage. So in the Recovery Act of Economic Recovery Act of 2009, they changed that by another 50% and said 75% of your profit can now be essentially sheltered from capital gains tax. So now you're talking about a 7% tax rate. That's a big, in my opinion, selling tool for either a business owner looking for an angel investor or the angel investor. Well, the legislation now, or the proposal that's being floated, is to take that starting next year to 0%. So instead of, or excuse me, the inverse, 100%. So instead of having any taxation, you would have zero if you're an angel investor. There are some stipulations, and certain industries are not allowed to participate. Tessa, sorry, architectural is one of them. Most of your professional organizations cannot, angel investors in those arenas cannot participate. A qualified small business is, and that's a key. It has to be qualified small business stock. That means it has to be C corporation. LLCs, S corps do not qualify. for a number of different reasons. But, so it does have to be a C corporation, has to be, including the stock offering, total value under 50 million, and 80%, I believe is the number, 80% of all of the assets and runnings of the company have to be in the actual trade of the business. So there's some stipulations, but again, it's just a tool, but I think it's a reasonable tool to keep in your toolbox that if the need is there, you can play that tool.